And so the bill will step down. So let's get some more perspective as to why, the whys and the wherefores, basically. We'll start from Abuja this time. Mark?
Thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us Honorable Benny Bakba, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party. You're welcome, and I know you're also representing Ethiopia
Federal Constituency.
Yeah, Ethiopia Federal.
Thank you.
You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we heard that, I think you had brought up, was it a motion you brought up last week, a proposal.
A point of order.
A point of order to the House of Representatives talking about the fact that the amendment which was done by the House, the latest amendment which was done by the House with regards to the Electoral Act, which was supposed to have allowed the statutory delegates be able to vote in the primaries, which have now been concluded. But the president refused assent to it. It would seem that time had now lapsed for his response to that, and you brought it to the attention of the House for the president's veto to be overridden. But somehow it would seem that there's been a miscommunication of processes somewhere. Can you bring us up to speed precisely on what transpired from last week to this week?
Thank you. Wednesday last week precisely, I came under a point of order, a constitutional point of order, that's Section 58, reminding the House that on the 11th of May, the Speaker and the leadership convened an emergency session, and that emergency session was actually heeded to by all members. We came and we amended Section 84(8) of the Electoral Act, because there seemed to be some misgiving about not mentioning statutory delegates. Because as it were, it was like the way it was in 2010 version, that now that it has been transmitted to the President on the 12th of May, and it was already 14th as of the day I came up with that point of order, 30 days has lapsed, and the Constitution made provision for us, if we are sure that we have done what is right, and because of the importance of that piece of legislation to the nation, especially this electionary process and time and season, we should activate Section 58(5) of the Constitution so that we can pass it through two-thirds majority, and we no longer need the President's assent. Mr. Speaker advised that I should come in form of a motion on notice so that everybody will be aware, and I did that on Thursday, and yesterday it was listed, it was on notice, and I moved the motion, and I think the only resolution, only prayer that motion talk about is to activate Section 58(5) of the Constitution, and to activate that means that we are saying that let's work in line with Section 58(5). But in our rule, Order 10, Rule 2, says that the decision of the chair is final and it's not subject to appeal or review. And that was what the Deputy Speaker, who was presiding, said, that we need to come in form of a bill. Actually, my thinking is after the activation of Section 58(5), it is to direct from the chair that the chairman rules and business should list the bill and possibly inform members to be around, because Mr. Speaker said the other day it's not going to be done by voice vote, it's going to be done by our electronic voting system so that we can be sure that we have the two-thirds majority. One mischief I just want to I'll say it's not really mischief to cure, but something I want Nigerians to know. The truth is, well, the Deputy Speaker is a very fine legislator. He has been one of the person that has actually guided us in a lot of things. Two, he's the chair yesterday, so his decision is final. And three, we are talking about overriding the president, which people think is a big deal. It's not actually a big deal.
No. I'm still not clear as to what precisely transpired yesterday. Yesterday, it would seem that you said you brought it in from form of a motion as the Speaker instructed you to, or guided you to. Correct. Last week, and you complied with that. So what precisely was the hiccup which was experienced in the House yesterday?
Well, that is why I refer you to our rule Order 10, Rule 2, the decision of the chair is final because as far as I'm concerned, I did what is right. I did.
What did the chair decide? That's the question.
The chair decided that I am supposed to come in form of a bill. I can't come in form of a bill, or I should liaise with the Rules and Business Committee to bring the bill back. That I thought was not my own. The motion is to let the House take the decision so that the chair can direct, or the House can direct the Rules and Business Committee to bring in the bill for reconsideration. But he wanted me to go and liaise with the Rules and Business Committee and ordered that the motion be stepped down.
Is that normally the process? Is it usually the duty of the person who brings up that sort of motion to liaise with the chairman, Rules and Business, for the House to be able to take a look at that again?
No, it's the chair, because when the House takes any resolution, it's the chair that directs. But this is, but for now, that is what it is. It's in line with our rule. I cannot appeal what he has said. He's the chair, and that the rule says the decision of the chair is final.
Okay, so what it means is that the attempt by the House to, or your plea to the House to take a look at this and, override the president's veto has suffered a setback yet again.
It's just a setback. It's just a setback. The violation has been done. Mr. President did not communicate to the House. Mr. President did not assent. He did not tell us why he's not assenting. And we still have other staggered elections that are coming up. What we are trying to do is to cure whatever will happen in other elections that are off cycle. The one within the cycle has been done, and the problem in this country is our leadership recruitment process. And if it starts from the primaries, I think the onus is on us as lawmakers to ensure that we have an enabling law, an electoral law that can stand the test of time. Yes, no law is carved on stone, but we must try our best as much as possible to get what is right and see where there are lacuna areas to correct from time to time. We can do it. So it has suffered a setback, but I believe what happened yesterday, the onus is now on us to try and reach the chairman committee, House Committee, Rules and Business, to do the needful. Then, if we are able to garner the 240 that is required, which is normal, I don't see anything wrong in it. And a lot of our members yesterday...
I was just about to ask you about the sentiment amongst your colleagues.
Yes, my colleagues were in the chambers yesterday. A lot of them came actually to see what can be done to this, because Section 4 of the Constitution gives us the powers to make laws. And I don't think it is right at all times. Whatever we do, the executive is either they reject or they bring it back. That is our own. But for this one, this is about election. Election is around the corner. We have to come back from our various constituencies to make sure we do this amendment. After doing it, Mr. President did not just ignore, he traveled outside the country. He left to Dubai, to Spain, and who travels when your country is on fire? And now that has thrown up a lot of challenges. The political parties were afraid. They were scared so that tomorrow there won't be litigation, and they say that they don't have candidates, so they have to comply. And that gave the process, the beginning of this process, to people that are hitherto not even known, people that does not understand the working, people that have not been following up. They don't know the pedigree of the people contesting. So money bags took over, and tomorrow Nigerians will cry that we're not getting the best.
Would it have been, I was just about to ask you, because I mean the primaries have since been conducted. In your party, looking at the presidential primaries, I think 774 delegates participated in the presidential primaries. In that of the APC, they had 2,322 delegates participating. Some people felt that the reduced numbers of the delegates also brought some sanity to the process somewhat. And they figure that if this were to stay as the law, that perhaps in the future there will be more attention paid to how delegates emerge rather than placing hope on people that are statutory delegates or super delegates, as the case might be.
Unfortunately, one, the reduced number, how can, I listened to former President Jonathan, where 6 persons have to decide who becomes a candidate, and there are 4 persons contesting. So you can see somebody might be getting just 2 or 3 votes to decide to be the candidate. Does that really reflect the thinking of the people in that constituency? That we should ask.
At what level is that? That's at the...
I think it should be House of Assembly.
House of Assembly?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to the House of Assembly. I had 30... I had about 100 persons that voted in my primaries. So now we're having 6 persons, and somebody is going to go with 2 votes. That definitely does not signify the thinking of everybody, and that will throw up people. And this time, you see the money issue everywhere. So the person with the deepest pocket gets it, and definitely not the deepest knowledge and capacity.
At the level of the presidential, what we saw at the level of the presidential primaries did not quite reflect the level of the problem at that of the primary. How do I describe this now? At the lower levels, let me put it that way, at the grassroots level. It didn't quite reflect that, because if we're to look at, say, 774 voting in the presidential primaries, it doesn't quite show, for instance, that for House of Assembly candidate to emerge, maybe just 6 people are going to, determine that vote.
Not even 6 people, because the winner, you will not look at the global picture. The total population will not be calculated. How many persons actually voted for the winner? Imagine Nigeria, a country of, let's say, 200 million, 210, 220 million persons, and less than 400% decided who should be, or less than 1,000, let's say 1,000% decided who should be.
Don't you think that attention should now focus on who those people are, and how attention should now be trained on the political parties at the grassroots level to pay attention to the quality of people who are at that level?
Now, the quality of persons are there. What about the quality of persons that will select the person? There's no way. We have good people, but who are the ones to select them? Are they going to be objective? These are subjective. The primary has thrown up a lot of challenge, because persons that are not supposed to, they are there already, because they had the money, they were able to pay their way through. Some are very small number of persons they were threatening, and they had to do what they had to do. Because
well, Mr. Speaker, expressed, great reservation when the primaries were concluded and the House of Representatives resumed sitting. He talks about how about 70% of members will not be returning. So some people think that perhaps this is also quite personal for members of the House of Representatives. Is this personal for you?
It would be funny if somebody is saying it's personal. It's not personal. It's about, now we are done. Like for my state, we are done. We don't have any election. But there are states that have election off cycle. Are we still going to go back to this same issue? It is not. There are areas where persons with disability voted, and after some time they were removed. They are not supposed to vote. So there's confusion here and there. I believe, and what we believe as a house, is let's get this thing right. That is why we did the amendment of Section 84. And I think Mr. President ought to sign and give Nigerians that peace of mind for people to go into the process with their eyes closed.
Okay, let's take this conversation now to Lagos. I know that they have another guest on standby, and we'll also have questions for you.
Oh, yes, we've got Mr. Oke Ezeala, who is a legal practitioner. First, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. So could you go ahead and tell us, what is your reading of what is going on with this bill?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I think at this stage, we have left, the train has left the station. There is nothing urgent about this bill. But I also think that what is important at this stage is if political parties via 2 or 3 persons decide to nominate one person who is unpopular, can the person win an election? The parties should be asking themselves, who is going to win an election for us? Who will have mass appeal? You can decide to get delegates, 20 delegates, and pay them $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 as the case may be. But I think we should now look at how do we strengthen INEC, to give vent to the will of the people. Because if these political parties know that if they present anybody, whether you bring all the statutory delegates back, people will be wiped into line. And this is what we should concentrate on. Once we concentrate on that, all these issues of, oh, let me come in, I must be involved, I must be the person to present the candidate who will just go. Because if you lose, just like PDP lost 7 years ago. So next time, every party will say, who do I nominate? Not who pays me higher. If you know somebody pays you higher and they can't appeal to the people because INEC will be up and doing its work. You can't bribe 60 million Nigerians. It's not possible. You can only bribe when you have 50,000 persons, 100,000 persons voting. But once Nigerians come out, you can't bribe them. And parties will be a bit more serious. So I think at this stage, while looking at what the House of the National Assembly is doing or what the House of Representatives is doing, now, it is their rules. If I have to speak to what they have done, it is their rules. But what the Constitution said is that they can only override the president. That is, they can only veto the president with 2/3 majority. Now, I do not personally agree with the way the speaker went for it. Maybe saying you should go by new bill. It's not a new bill. There is already a bill. All they need to do is to look at their rules and see, how do we bring back this bill? And I support the people that presented the bill. That is to the extent of the proceedings. But personally, I think there is no need to rush into this bill. They can do that later.
So, Mr. Zala, in other words, you're suggesting that what they have identified as an ill, wherein the number or quality of the people who will sit and ensure that or nominate votes in that particular election, it doesn't matter to you. As long as whoever comes up, it's then up to Nigerians to decide. Is that your point?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter to me. It matters to me. The mistakes have been done. The more, that's why some of us really campaign for direct primaries. When you have direct primaries, you have a lot of people determining who is going to be the flag bearer. But the mistake has been done. Nothing now that is urgent. We should concentrate at this stage. We can come back to correct it. Even if we say we need an indirect primary, we should be able to expand the space, whether statutory or even members. I mean, what stops us from saying 10 members from each local government? If we had 5,000 delegates, it will not be so easy to bribe them with 20 or 30 or 50,000.
When you say it's not urgent, well, they are saying, look, based on our law and the rules here, the president had 30 days within which you are sent to this, and that hasn't happened. Are they supposed to look the other way because they think we're only following up on what the provisions or what the laws provide? So wherein do you then say it's not urgent?
No. One, why I'm saying it's not urgent is that it's not going to impact on the remaining elections before 2023. So if it's not going to impact on that, we shouldn't concentrate and waste our time on what will be for other elections that may as well commence in 2025. You know, that is my own. But what is important is if INEC is going to do its work, if INEC is ready to do its work, we will see what that has landed us to. It's easier. We have, now, yes, we may say we don't have independent candidates, but we have a lot of political parties who will shop for good candidates and will present those good candidates. So when PDP or APC or any major party decides to shut out the people that, because the essence of amendments that the House of Rep is going for is to ensure that there are more inclusive people in nominating a flag bearer. I agree with them that it is important. But the point now is, what should we emphasize on as of today? We can do this after the elections, assuming. So, because there is nothing late. That's the point I'm trying to make. Nothing late now for us to either get into that place or not to get into that place.
It's quite interesting, really, because on the one hand, you have issues with the process of trying to override the president's veto, especially what we saw on the floor of the House yesterday. But for the content of the bill itself, you think there's no point, really. It's okay to just leave it the way it is. But still piggybacking on Chamberlain's question, because, this is a challenge we see time and again, pushing those issues to the future. Say, you know what, we still have time, let's do it sometime eventually. But it is the law, essentially, and it looks like the members of the National Assembly have seen a lacuna in the law. So just again, to be clear, are you saying that we should overlook this, even though it's some sort of lacuna, and just carry on and sort it out, like pushing the evil day forward as it is?
Okay, I am not saying it should be left. The point is that we have a lot of bills that are seeking for attention. The point also is that this bill can be taken care of in 2005, in 2025, or 2024. We can do that. I am thinking that National Assembly should be able to look at the oversight functions on INEC. What is happening now? What has INEC done in terms of, collation of aspirants? There are some burning issues in the country today. There are issues of what do we do with aspirants that did not contest election that are coming back to take up the tickets? What do we do with those? Is National Assembly not looking at that area? Is National Assembly not going to pass a resolution and say, INEC do the right thing as contained in the law? So when we say push it, we're not saying, I am not saying push it because it's not important. Like I said, I have my reservations on even what the National Assembly is pushing. They are pushing for to have more statutory delegates inside the system. But I am thinking that if they want to, let them look at it holistically and see, is there something we are going to do to increase the number of delegates, assuming we want to do indirect primaries?
Right.
Is there something we are going to do to compel the political parties to expand the space a bit more? So doing some of the actions may appear to be what you may call people trying to protect their own territory.
Right.
And that's what we should concentrate on. That should be what we try to overheat the system on.
Well, let's take this to Honorable Igbakwa in our Abuja studio. So, Honorable, Mr. Ezela believes that there are more important things begging for the attention of members of the National Assembly. One, ensuring that INEC does its job and does it well. And some will also say that maybe this motivation came about because majority of representatives or members of the National Assembly didn't win their primaries. First, is that the case for you? Did you win your primaries? Are you contesting again?
Well, I did not win my primaries, but that is not the issue. The Constitution has been there. At least I'm a little older than the Constitution, but the Constitution has been there, and the writing of the Constitution need to be followed. The Constitution says 30 days, and Mr. President has not written to us on that issue. And election, if you're saying that election is less important, then I don't think it's right. It's fine for somebody to say that election is less important, because leadership, the whole problem we have starts from leadership. And in our leadership recruitment, if the process starting the leadership recruitment is faulty, then it's like building a very big house in a foundation that is faulty, and definitely it will crash. We should be thinking about how to get leaders that actually listen to Nigerians and give Nigeria what we're asking. We know what it is in the country today. I don't want to bore you by running through that, because it's like a broken record. Everybody, my 2-year-old daughter, my 3-year-old daughter understand what is happening as a country. So we need people that can actually change the narrative. We need people that can make us proud once again as Nigerians. So, and that starts from the leadership recruitment process, and that is the primaries. Now we've got it all wrong in the first phase, but I'm sure we have another election before 2023 election. So if there are elections coming, what is wrong in correcting these defects, this mischief, cure it, so that going forward, we can actually be doing primaries that reflect the interest, yearning, and aspiration of Nigerians to get better leaders.
Honorable Igbakwa, it would seem as if you were taken aback yesterday when the Deputy Speaker referred you to House rules, saying that the route you were taking to initiate the process of overriding was the wrong one. Might I ask that was the Speaker not aware that that route was wrong when he referred you to bringing the motion on notice last week? And as a result, are you sensing political undertones amidst all of this, particularly in the Deputy Speaker's move yesterday?
Well, to say that I was taken aback is an understatement, because I thought that had been settled on Wednesday, and I brought the motion, and it's a motion on notice, which means that the presiding officer must endorse it before it goes into the order paper. And the Deputy Speaker also saw it, and maybe he will have, there are times we have to call ourselves and talk, oh, this one will not work, let's just do it behind. But I was taken aback. But in all, like I told you, according to our order, the rule book, or the 10 Rule 2, the decision of the chair is final. It is not subject to appeal or any review. So I leave it at that.
Well, you didn't answer the part about whether you sense political undertones or not, which brings me to my next question. Why was the Speaker absent from yesterday's proceedings? Because it would seem as if it should be the one to have presided, because last week he was vehement in his condemnation of that aspect of the Electoral Act amendment, which led to most of you not returning to the House. So why was the Speaker absent?
Well, it's a human being. I understand Mr. Speaker has another activity, national activity, official activity yesterday that he was attending to. That's why he didn't come, and that is why we have the Deputy Speaker. I must tell you, they are fine legislators. Both of them, the leadership of the House has been very, very helpful. This is my first tenure in the House, and I must admit that I've learned a lot from them. But they are human too, so I wouldn't take one situation to blame them and just say that there's any political undertone, because this is about the Constitution. Any legislator, any Nigerian, especially people in leadership position, we want to protect our Constitution. So I don't see any political undertone. He has said that the committee on rules and business should be approached. I expected him to actually approach the committee from the chair, which is a direction. It means it's a resolution, and it gives more weight to it. But he has directed me, and I'll do that.
Lastly, are you riding on wishful thinking that this mission to overriding will get anywhere? Because it's the same way the Senate blew hot air about its intention to override the president on the direct primary clause only a few months ago. But eventually, nothing actually came out of it, because it then began to say, the Senate began to say that it had to consult with the House of Representatives. And we all know the end of the story.
Well, thank God we have the bicameral legislation, the House of Representatives, the Senate. We work, and at the point we come together. We're not just doing it. It's the Constitution. It's our rule. We are members of Parliament, and the Constitution gives us power to make laws. And if there is an infraction, and what the Constitution says, we are there to cure whatever it is. And that is what we are doing. We can't twist the Senate if we are able to get the 240 required to override. But see, the truth is this: the Nigerians seem to be looking at this overriding as a big deal. It's normal. It's democracy. It's parliamentary practice. It's the Constitution. It's the rule of law. So I don't see if anybody is thinking that overriding the president seems to be. It's not impeaching the president.
You know, but that's why
it doesn't take anything out of the president.
That's
it's
why
just to tell the president that this thing you ought to have signed, you did not sign, and we are going ahead because we believe we have done our part of the job.
But
and
for
Nigerians need the act to work.
For those who have been following the National Assembly, they were a bit surprised when you say you were taken aback, because they know they haven't seen this National Assembly matters such as this one, overriding the president, will not happen, especially when they then saw the Deputy Speaker. They thought, yeah, we knew that this was going to be the case. And they don't see the National Assembly going the whole hog with this one.
Well, this has started. We'll see how it ends. It's not for me. Overriding the president is not an infraction of any sort. It's not confrontational. It does not affect anybody negatively. It's just to say, this law, we believe we have done well with this bill, let it be law. Mr. President, you don't want to sign, we put it there. I want to salute previous members of this House of Representatives and Senate who were able to override President Obasanjo to put the NDDC on board. And today, the NDDC is running. It's an agency that people are talking about. So I don't know why people don't want to write their name in the book of history. Let's do what is right. Let's do what the Constitution says. If anybody is, because of party or because of individual, not wanting to do it, then it's a sad narrative, but I'm sure nobody is thinking about party. They just want procedure. Whatever procedure, we'll get to that procedure. And when we finish all the procedure, we will do what is right.
Have there been any whispers from the executive arm of government so far?
Not to me. None that I'm aware of.
So we've been informed now that the battle is not yet over until it is over. When will you eventually say, okay, this is the farthest I can go and so no more?
Me as an individual?
Yes, as an individual.
For people that know me, I believe that I am working, whatever I am doing is in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's in line with Section 4 of the Constitution that gave me that right to be a member of, being a member of Parliament. I subscribe to the rules of that Parliament, and I subscribe to abide by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I will continue. If it fails because we could not get the two-thirds majority. If it fails, maybe the Senate did not follow suit, but I am sure majority of our members know that this is not an affront of the president, it's not confrontation, it is the Constitution, and there is a mischief that needs to be cured by Section 84(8) of the Electoral Act, and we'll follow suit.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. We'll see how matters eventually pan out at the National Assembly. Honorable Benny Bakba is a member of the PDP and currently represents Ethiop constituency in Delta State. Thank you once more.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll take a break now. We'll be back shortly to... oh, yes, indeed. We also had Mr. Chukwuma Eziala, who is a legal practitioner. I nearly forgot that you were there. I'm so sorry about that, Mr. Eziala. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.